Hello, everyone. This is Elisa Baum. I'm GridGain Systems Director of Product Marketing. We'll begin in just a moment, but first I need to conduct a bit of housekeeping. If you could please raise your hand using the hand icon located in the GoToWebinar control panel to let me know you can hear me, that would be great. Okay, thanks. I see hands. Next, during this webinar, you will be on mute, and should you have any questions during the discussion, please enter them in the questions field within the control panel. At the end of the webinar, we'll take time to answer as many questions as possible, and those that aren't addressed will be answered in a follow-up blog entry on our blog. In addition, I'll make sure that each of you has a link to the recording and the slides within 48 hours. I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar, Modernize and Accelerate Payments with in-memory computing. And it's going to be presented today by Eric Hartman. He is a financial services industry consultant. It was going to be jointly presented by also by Matt Searle, but he is stuck in jury duty. So Eric has got the whole show today. And with that said, I'll turn the floor over to Eric. And Eric, we're getting a little bit of background noise. I know you're doing this remotely, so just try to speak very loudly.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you to everybody who is attending. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I know that we have usually audience covering us from multiple places globally. Today we have an interesting topic which we'll cover, which is empowering payments within memory computing. And payment is one of the most widely used and discussed area today in financial technology and financial transaction processing, and that's why I think it's worthwhile to have a session on it where I can explain what the industry has seen within the past couple of years, what some of the challenges are, and how the companies are addressing this. And then we'll cover in-memory computing and explain why in-memory computing is probably one of the right technologies to utilize with modern payment systems. And then we'll talk more about our implementation with GridGain, as well as some of the case studies where companies are using us in the payment space. So the payment industry has been evolving rapidly, especially in the last few years with the growing shift to digital. And the global payments ecosystem is constantly changing as new startups try to change the way we move money around the world, and all kinds of new technologies are showing up. Obviously, a lot of investments had come into those startups and the areas, the technology firms that are specializing in payments, as venture capitalists also love that type of technology and believe there is future into this. Plus, not only the venture capitalists are interested in those types of firms, but also the banks and traditional financial institutions. They also realize that the disruption is coming, and the way that payments are processed or about to be processed, and with digital remittance and all the other types of disruption that happens within the space, attract financial companies into looking for solutions outside of their walls. So they'll look for startups, they look for technology companies that have some kind of advanced ideas about digitalized payments, and invest into those companies, buying those companies or becoming major shareholders or investors into those companies, so they could really have more influence on the direction where those companies are moving to with their technology spend. There's also the global side to this. Not only US or Western Europe are involved now with new payments technologies that are coming up, but also globally, wherever the talent may exist, wherever the technical resources may be, wherever the innovation hubs are being set up, that's where we're seeing a lot of a lot of new ideas are coming from. It's also becoming easier to enter this field as the transaction costs become lower. So the commissions, the integrators that are utilizing the space also spending less and less in transacting in this business, and that also attracts more entrants as it doesn't require large capital coffins to actually come in and implement technology like that. There's also increased competition because of that, because it's so easy to enter, because we have a lot of players in the space, and then the competition is good. It's healthy competition. You're actually looking at the best available products and trying to invest into those or trying to implement those at your firms, and that creates opportunities. It's a buyer's market, so obviously as there's more competition, as many firms are entering the space, clearly the buyers can choose what technology is good, and more investment, more interest goes into a particular firm, and that means less interest into other firms, and that sort of a natural growing of particular firms that are good with implementing this technology. And then innovation, as I said, there's a movement more towards consumers from the processes, and that's kind of what the innovation is all about, that you're trying to attract more end clients through your services with tools, with graphics, with functionality, with ease of use that's available there. Also, reduction of steps to complete transaction, right? It used to be for each payment transaction to go through, you literally going through a dozen of different intermediaries or different systems. One system may be used for compliance, another system may be used for validation, another system may be used to route you to a payment intermediary, a third system maybe to make sure that the record has been completed, another system or another intermediary used to actually send you a report on what happened with the transaction. So lots of players in there, and we see a reduction in that. We see that again, because of technology, you can automate as many of the steps as possible into a seamless transaction processing paradigm. There are also analytics that you can use on those payments, right? You can learn a lot about payments, who it's coming from, where it's going, what services have been paid for, what other transactions the same counterparty had purchased before or bought. So this is once you collect all this data, you can really run analytics against this data, and that's quite useful for future analysis and future prediction modeling that you could utilize. And then on the technology side, obviously, there's also more movement towards cloud and subscription-based computing, where again, it's because it's easy to set up a host computer to run those processes. You put it on the cloud, and you can this way scale up to wherever you want and have as many end parties connecting to your service through the cloud, and you can control it easily without necessarily having to buy hardware and infrastructure components yourself and keeping them internally. And outsourcing as well, right? So some of the parts that you feel you can do with this payments technology, you keep internally, and some things you may want to outsource to somebody else. Like I mentioned, you may want to outsource your confirms and the documents that you send out to end clients. You may want to outsource your onboarding. You may want to outsource compliance and regulatory checks that you have to perform. All of this is available from external vendors, external venues that you can outsource to. This slide kind of explains what I meant by the investments, right? This is a very latest slide as of January 2007, how much investments are coming into different areas within financial technology. And as you can see, the top areas, right? What we basically are talking about, right? So if you see consumer payments, payments backend, POS, point of sale payments, digital banking, remittances, all this, a lot of these areas here on the top, in the top spending category are about payments. So as you can see, payments is probably the highest. If you combine all the different payments bars here, you can see that this will be the highest funding area from the venture capital world. So what are some of the top trends that we observe in the payments processing industry? Well, I wanted to sort of split it into four parts. One is mobile payments, second is digital remittance, third is bitcoins and blockchains, and fourth is payment security. Those, I believe, the four trends mainly we can see in the payments processing space. So what's mobile payments? Well, that's where the digital banking comes in, right? So part of the digital banking, you always have payments because you need to transfer money, you need to finance certain purchases, and that's where the banks come in with the offerings for digital banking. Also, instant and invisible payments is another area where it's very easy. Like when you're ordering Uber, for example, right? You only want to press one button and get all the payments back end to happen behind the scene, right? You don't want to come back to this. You want to order your service and pay with one button, with everything already being there on your mobile phone. So similar idea here. You want an instant payment, you want invisible payment, you want very easy payment, one button type of payments, and that's what we're seeing in the industry coming up. Also, more mobile and wearable apps that automatically send payment instructions. You go through a store, you may want to have a mobile phone or an iWatch or something like that, and you want to scan it, and immediately the money is available. You don't have to really stop and go through your credit cards and plug something in, and the many steps are eliminated with some of those apps that we see coming up in the mobile space. Internet of Things, right, is another area where you are seamlessly connecting different households and other devices and other devices, and they all can communicate, and if needed, also provide for payments in a very fast, very efficient way, right from those devices themselves. There's also social media and commerce integration piece, right? And PSD2 is the new standard that has been popular in Europe and coming to the US as well, where it's a standard API or standard ways that the banks must allow. The different social and mobile applications to communicate digitally and provide for payments using this protocol. And then, like I mentioned earlier, cooperation with banks and fintech is also a bigger area with different aggregators, different mobility innovation labs and mobility labs and some other ideas that the banks have invested into to cooperate with fintech companies. Digital remittance as well. There's this idea of mobile wallets that is really, I would say, one of the biggest transformation in the payments processing, where basically retailers are particularly excited about mobile payments because they can offer valuable insights about customer transactions that company can use to enhance their shoppers' experience, and the speed of mobile payments can also help increase foot traffic in stores, which in turn would generate more sales. And so it's a lot of retailers are moving more and more into this accepting mobile wallets, using digital payments, prepayments, pre-ordering. All of this is becoming a big reality in the retailer space. Contactless spending is also, I mentioned earlier, where you can just easily have a device within the range acceptable scanners, and you don't need to stop. Almost works like an Easy Pass in the States, or those types of devices that you just pass by and automatically the amounts is being, certain payments have been taken from you. And on peer-to-peer, you may want to eliminate sometimes the banking intermediaries if it's payments between two parties directly. And as a result, lower fees. As we have more competition, as we have ease of use, the fees are lower, and so you don't have to accumulate larger purchases to be able to pay this way. Even anything within cents, is going to be acceptable for digital remittance. Bitcoins and blockchains. We actually had a session on that a couple of months ago, and you may want to look into our recordings of that, because I was actually covering the Bitcoins and blockchains extensively. So I'm not going to spend that much time here, but I think that's the area that fits very nicely with payments. The idea of decentralized and distributed public ledger and payment hubs and lower fees, and basically creating a central sort of distributed way of sending information, receiving information, knowing each transaction, and keeping track of everything, downloading the full book of records every time you're connecting to this network is an interesting idea. But obviously, security is a big thing here, as you are trying to move more towards peer-to-peer transacting, towards online and mobile transacting, contactless transacting, blockchains. It's all comes down to security and how secure your payments are. Obviously, lots of fraud, lots of issues there in the security space. So companies paying a lot of attention into securing those transactions, and many startups are actually coming up with ideas specifically on how to secure and protect and encrypt that transaction data. So there's the standards that the regulators are trying to promote, like standard EMV security, PSD2, as I mentioned before. There are certain cybersecurity initiatives by different countries, near field communication with certain encryption requirements, digital signatures, again, with certain requirements, biometrics, authentication, authorization, audit. All of those are being used now not only by financial institutions, but also by those technology vendors that are moving into the space, that are sort of taking over a role of a bank in a sort of a modern digital sense of that word. Well, that brings us to challenges, and clearly challenges are there. As I mentioned, with fraud and hacking are a big area of concern here. Overall, global uncertainty and some of the movements maybe towards isolation and not allowing global competition to come in, protecting local financial infrastructures and ecosystems by different governments. That's also kind of plays a role of for the firms, whether they wanted to transact globally and move into different areas. As I mentioned, because of higher competition, customer acquisitions are difficult, and plus those startups are usually new entrants, so they haven't really built up a significant customer base yet, and they don't have that sort of reputational or stickiness that that more traditional financial institutions have enjoyed over the years. So this again takes more time and more resources to let customers know about these offerings, explain the benefits, and onboard more customers. Reputational risk, anytime you may have a breach into the system or data, or some other instability with the system, immediately reputation may be damaged, and customers can easily move to other vendors, because it's much easier now to move from one to the other than before. So again, that results in more importance of this reputational risk area. Cultural change as well, right? So people have been used to going to the bank and using the bank to perform those transactions. And now if they're told, well, you can do everything through one click of a button, yes, with maybe younger generation, new generation, it's okay. They get it. They are used to this. They've grown up with this. But previous generations, older, the parents of those millennium kids, and the grandparents, it's maybe not as easy for them culturally to shift to something like that. Also, those are startups. Everything, they don't have cash reserves like the banks do. So everything they do has to be, they have to be concerned about how much they spent, and if there's any issue that occurs that happens to them, they may not be able to resolve it quickly and having enough cash reserves to come out of it alive. Regulation's still there. It's a global, very high regulatory regime situation that we are seeing in the world. And that results in knowing, so that companies have to know about those different regulations and comply with them. And that also takes time and resources and adds cost into being compliant. Consumer growth. Obviously companies need to be scalable enough with their technology, because if you have all of a sudden you have a lot more customers coming into you to join your service, and you don't have adequate technology supporting this, that means performance issues, that means maybe the service will be unavailable, or as there are too many connections, and that results in consumer dissatisfaction, and you may lose customers. You don't want that to happen. You want to build your technology in a scalable fashion, that if you do see more incoming flows coming your way, you're able to expand on that. Performance, as I kind of already alluded to that, it's also a big factor. You want an instantaneous payment. You don't want to wait for anything. You want to click on the button, everything happens instantaneously. That's the type that requires, again, certain systemic technology investment that will guarantee that level of performance and scalability. And then the legacy technology obviously has limits to that, so you may want to upgrade to some of the later technologies, and we'll talk more about that shortly. And then the security concerns, as I mentioned, because of fraud, because of hacking, because of data privacy regulations that need to be addressed. So again, companies have to be very careful with different types of security issues and protect adequately. And then lack of technology resources is also there, that you need innovative people to actually come up with those ideas, and sometimes it's harder to find them in a particular jurisdiction. So you may want to look broader into the market and look for talent elsewhere to build a system. Next slide is future looking about what to expect within payments. And I found this interesting articles that I wanted to kind of provide to you with payment predictions, and they will speak for themselves about what the industry is predicting is going to happen with the payments industry. So within the next year, half of today's smartphone users will use mobile payments as their preferred method of transactions. That's incredible, right? So it means clear movement of majority of users into mobile payments from traditional payments. This year, fewer than 25% of all in-store purchases will be cash-based transactions, right? So fewer and fewer cash transactions globally, and that means electronic processing or some kind of payments processing digitally of those transactions. In 2017, mobile payments market is expected to be worth $720 billion in transactions, compared to 235 billion in 2014. So just in 3 years, we see 3 times growth almost within this market. Mobile wallet market is predicted to reach 142 billion by 2019. In the middle of last year, there were more than $1.46 trillion of Bitcoin digital currency in circulation. unbelievable amounts. So growth of Bitcoins, which resulted in the price of Bitcoins, have been going crazily over the roof within the past year and a half. There are also technology trends that that help to kind of move this industry forward. There's more dependency on open source, with communities being created around the open source um, technologies. Software becomes critical component of business, and there's a synergy between business and technology. Business make data-driven decisions, so there's more requests. There are more requests from the business directly to to have more technology available to them. More data analysis, big data, open APIs, predictive analytics, and then all those improvements through later technologies in performance and stability and security and scalability. And we'll talk more about that, about how in-memory computing and GridGain system can actually bring all those advantages to the payments companies or companies investing into new payment systems. The transactions need to be recoverable, right? Because we're dealing with financial transactions, so something gets failed within the process, it has to be rolled back. So very serious concerns about recoverability and high availability of systems used for such transactions processing. Serverless architecture, so more moving onto the cloud, grids, distributed systems, containers, microservice-based architecture, machine learning, and complex event processing, and in real-time analyzing the data, performing data pattern recognition and certain artificial intelligence on deciding whether to allow this transaction or to block this transaction. That brings us to second part of this discussion is why in memory now? And here basically we can see that the digital transformation is driving companies closer to the customers, as I kind of shown here. We see more data, we see more devices. At the same time, cost of memory is significantly lower now than it used to be. And as you can see with this slide here, cost drops 30% every 12 months. That's an incredible drop in cost. So by now, we're getting closer and closer price-wise to the cost of disk, even though performance-wise, we are hundreds, if not thousands times faster than the traditional disk-based processing. The market is big and growing rapidly, right? We see more and more different applications, both on the OLAP as well as the OLTP side, being moved on to in-memory computing. I kind of mentioned, we see 1,000 times faster results and 10 times or so improvements in ROI, while the additional cost is not as significant as the results that we are saving being provided from here. What is an in-memory computing platform? Well, it's a multi-featured solution. It supports lots of advanced functions like data caching, like parallel processing, in-memory SQL, streaming, high availability, both OLTP and OLAP support, and works with most popular traditional as well as non-traditional databases. This slide talks a little bit about architecture, where we have those different features and the architecture coming together to create this large-scale computing environment to solve any any situations where you have a lot of transactions or you have a lot of rich data analytics that needs to be performed in real time, and the response time has to be instantaneous. Well, as you can see, high-speed transactions and real-time streaming, are really one of the top areas here, and that's where payments usually come into play because if you're a payment hub, you are processing hundreds, thousands, and or if not millions of transactions per second, and you need to have an infrastructure capable for that. This is where GridGain and Apache Ignite stack up with some of the other data stores that people use with this technology, and you can see pretty much all different databases are being used. The features, people are interested in compute grid, obviously, and a data grid as their main main characteristics of the system, but also other enterprise features are also quite important. A lot of people are using it on premises as well as the cloud, and that's what kind of mentioned. So with payments, if you're a traditional bank, you probably want to run most of the things on premises using a payment hub that you're building internally. If you are a startup, then you're probably moving more towards a cloud-based solution that you want to be scalable, and we have customers on both sides of this spectrum. Which of the following languages? So again, we support multiple languages, as you can see, SQL, Java, C++, all the new languages as well. That brings us to the case studies section. And as I kind of mentioned, so we are lucky. We've kind of built a very nice portfolio of financial clients, and they span across different segments, from traditional banks like Sberbank, like Citi, like Barclays, Jefferies, to technology companies like Thomson Reuters, like Markit, like Mises, right, and as well as some of the asset management firms, um, like Fidelity and others. So we cover a whole spectrum of things here, in which some people are using us for trading platforms, others are using us for risk management modeling, others are using us for compliance and monitoring and big data analytics. But a lot of our client, I would say majority of our clients will use payments one way or another through our systems, right? Because payments do require certain compliance and monitoring checks. Payments do require certain big data analytics performed on this data. Payments do require treasury systems or updates or some of the other systems that are being used with that GridGain is being used for. So one way or another, payments is usually a big component of the installs that we do for our clients. Then there are two case studies I wanted to share with you. One is about Mises, and Mises is a quite large vendor in financial technology, used in financial technology, and it's used for retail banking, for corporate banking, for lending, for capital markets, and has more than 2,000 customers in 130 countries, and used by 48 of the world's 50 largest banks. And the challenge was that they wanted to eliminate data processing bottlenecks. So they had a huge amount of trades and accounting data, as well as some payments with the cash transactions that were coming in. And customers needed high-speed transactions and real-time reporting, just like any of the other payments related or financial related applications might do. And plus, they had to also do real-time analysis from the regulatory and compliance perspective to approve those transactions. And those were some of the challenges. They've had some commodity servers, about 256 gigabyte of RAM, data stored in memory, both transactions and market data, and parallel processing across clusters. So what they did, they've actually been able to move most of components on their cloud-based solution, Fusion Fabric.Cloud, to a cluster built with GridGain technology, and they were able to process all of those different securities, as I mentioned here, including, FX and money markets that are worth mentioning here. And as you can see, Felix Gravy, Director of Product Management, said that with GridGain, we have achieved real-time processing of massive amounts of trade and transaction data, eliminating bottlenecks and enabling us to offer next-generational financial services to our customers. And that's a lot of times we hear that yes, we are generating a lot of data. We have many transactions that need to be processed in real time. Those are usually very good use cases for us for using our technology. Second use case I wanted to present is about Sberbank. And Sberbank is the largest bank in Russia and Eastern Europe, and the third largest in Europe. And basically, some of the issues they had, or some of the concerns they had, were that they were expecting significant transactional growth, and they were seeing it coming up on multiple channels through their ATM machines, through their online banking, through their mobile banking, and they felt that they wanted to invest into the next generation technology that would cater them to this significant volume growth that was being expected. And they ran a test case with us where not only with us, but they did it with about a dozen of different companies. And basically GridGain won, because it did demonstrate best fault tolerance and scalability that they specifically asked for, certain levels of that. And then they liked that we've provided ANSI 99 full SQL support functionality with our clusters, transactional consistency. They also had banking regulators requirement to be available within 5 minutes of the cluster restart time. And again, they've seen that with our technology, they were able to get that. And then they will have fully operational with disk and memory and compliance with local regulations and cybersecurity regulations. So for the test, for the initial test that we ran with them, we were able to generate about 1 billion transactions per second. Incredible amounts of data that was being processed. And that was run on 10 Dell R610 blades with 1 terabyte of memory, which cost the bank for this particular exercise about $25,000. So on $25,000 worth of hardware, they were able to generate 1 billion transactions per second using GridGain. That's a number that none of the other competitors of our competitors could show. And we also have a very nice commentary here from Herman Graf, who is the CEO and chairman of Sberbank, and quite a respectable person in Russia, considered to be an innovator from the technology perspective in Russia. And he said the new Sberbank IT plan is to create a platform that enables the bank to introduce new products in hours, not weeks. That platform will have virtually unlimited performance and very high reliability. It will be much cheaper and will significantly reduce human interaction during customer transactions. The system will use machine learning, flexible pricing, and artificial intelligence. And the new system will use technology from GridGain, which won the tender, from Oracle, IBM, and many others, and turn out to deliver much higher performance than those other larger competitors of ours. So what's GridGain in a nutshell? Well, we are an Apache Ignite project. In 2007 was the first version of GridGain. In October 2014, GridGain contributes Ignite to Apache Foundation. And Ignite in 2015 became the second fastest project to graduate after Spark. And the community is growing constantly, and we have a lot of contributors contributing to this open source technology. So what's GridGain? Well, GridGain is based on Apache Ignite. It is fully supporting the open source Apache Ignite core, but it also provides additionally many benefits that enterprise class customers will need. And the in-memory data fabric we already kind of covered with different grids all working together. That's why we call it a fabric. So all pieces working together and to provide the seamless sense of large-scale data processing in an enterprise fashion. So the data grid is responsible for scalability and caching, and the compute grid for actual computing. And so data and compute work on the same node. And SQL Grid, as I said, fully supports ANSI 99 SQL for any querying, and then streaming, Hadoop's events. We can support both standard and non-standard, structured and unstructured databases, as well as support for most of the programming languages used today. Then we talk about here how the in-memory data grid works, where you're basically utilizing the grid to achieve high performance while also being able to provide great clustering and great availability of the data, regardless of if one of the nodes goes down, immediately it can be picked up. The data can be picked up by other nodes, and you're still not affected by that. The cluster is still operating practically with a similar performance. And the SQL, where you can actually go in and do all the ANSI 99 SQL queries. And in-memory computing grid is really the hardcore of our super fast processing of data elements. And then in-memory streaming, where we can receive in real time streams from multiple sources, and they're being analyzed and being processed simultaneously by the grid. And the Hadoop is, again, if you're using big data, we have a fully functional in-memory Hadoop acceleration that works with your Hadoop, HDFS, and all those Hadoop structures, data structures, but also provides 10 times faster performance than the traditional HDFS or MapReduce algorithms used within Hadoop. Basically, this summarizes what Apache Ignite is and what GridGain is. So all those grids that I mentioned, and in-memory grid, compute grid, service grid, streaming, all of this is available with Apache Ignite. But where GridGain Enterprise comes in, that there are additional management and monitoring GUIs. There's additional enterprise-grade security that passes very strict financial regulations. There's also network segmentation, recoverable local stores, data center replication, integration with some of the other systems like Oracle Golden Gate, full enterprise support, can be up to 24/7, support all security updates and all maintenance and releases. That's basically what I wanted to present today with the industry, the payments industry, and where we're moving towards with the increased acceptance of in-memory computing in the space and why it is so. What the GridGain can offer within the in-memory computing space, and the case studies of the financial institutions using us for different types of transactions, including payments. So like I said, payments usually requires significant amount of transactions to be processed in real time, and also some analysis that needs to be done in real time for compliance, for data analytics, for modeling purposes, and all of this can happen on the grid because the grid is so powerful, so performance centric, as well as scalable and secure. Thank you so much. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, audience, if you have any questions, please go ahead and enter them in the questions field in the GoToWebinar control panel. And at the moment, we don't have any, but let's give people a couple seconds to see if they have anything. Eric, thank you so much for presenting today. I don't see any questions coming in, but you must have done a really thorough job. Appreciate it.
Well, anytime, participants can email us. Our email information was provided on the first slide. I'm sure it will be provided once the webinar is available for download. So anytime, please do email us questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to let the audience know that I will send out a link to the recording as well as the slides probably within 24 hours. I just have to process the recording. So that should be coming to you via email. And I invite you to attend any of our future webinars in our financial services series. I believe our next one is on insurance. Is that correct, Eric? I think that's the one that's
That
coming
is
up.
correct. Yep. I
Yeah,
think next month. Yep.
next
Hmm.
May or in May. So
In
we
May.
hope to see some of you here if that's of interest to you. And I also invite you to visit GridGain's website, www.gridgain.com. Take a look at the financial services industry page, and we have a whole bunch of resources to help you, a whole bunch of webinar recordings that are part of the series, as well as white papers that we're creating on various use cases within the financial services industry. So with that said, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. Eric, thank you so much. And again, we hope to see you on a future webinar.
Thank you.